Hello, check, check.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very sorry for the delay. We're all set up and facing some technical issues, so we're going to start. Oh, finally, हो गया यार. After so many rejections. Why are you so dull?
Nothing, yaar. How many more rejections do I have to take? Honestly, at this moment, interview देने का मन भी नहीं करता. I'm literally so scared of it.
That is true though. Interviews are really tiring.
But how did you do it?
Wait, I'm telling you. There are people waiting. I'll tell you all. Interface, the second edition. I'm Shivani Jain,
And I am Ankon Dotto.
and today we, the Debating Society of NIT Durgapur, has brought to you Interface 2.0, a mock interview event especially catered towards the students whose minds are full of doubts about the placement process. We would request the convener of the Debating Society, 𝗗𝗲𝗯𝘁𝗶𝗶𝗄 to start the event.
Okay, hi guys. Well, firstly, I would like to extend my congratulations to the host, finally starting the event, for finally able to start the event. And also, firstly, let me introduce myself to you. I am 𝗗𝗲𝗯𝘁𝗶𝗃. I am currently a BTech final year undergrad student who is serving as the head of debating and convener for Debating Society NIT Durgapur. And I would like to take this opportunity to pronounce the commencement of Interface 2.0, which is a one-to-one, which is a peer-to-peer live interactive sessions with your alumni who have already marked their presence in their professional career. And this is an example for the commitment that's provided by the Debating Society towards the students of NIT Durgapur, where we provide meaningful events and also which are also filled with excited stuff, so that you guys can have an informative sessions as well as have fun while doing that. And also, firstly, like many of you, I would have also preferred this event to happen in an offline format where you have a live interaction to get to interact with the alumni directly. But owing to the logistics and also availability of our beloved speakers, we are here now with this edition, which is happening in an online format. So with this, I pronounce the commencement of Interface 2.0, and I would like to virtually hand over the mic to our beautiful hosts, Ankan and Shivani. Thank you for that time.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the interview. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. We're probably just gonna jump right into the interview. I'm curious, are you familiar with this very new software, which you surely don't know, because that's what we're going to be using for the throughout the whole interview process.
No, actually.
Well, these kinds of mistakes are very common in the interviewing world, which we all will be a part of in the near future. And to eliminate those mistakes and doubts, today we have the privilege of being joined by 4 distinguished individuals who are the alumni of our very own college, each a luminary individuals in their respective fields, who will serve as our esteemed panelists today. These exceptional individuals bring with them a wealth of experience and insights that will undoubtedly enrich our event and guide us towards honing our interview skills.
Firstly, we have with us Mr. 𝗗𝗃𝗧 𝗵𝗃. He's a member of the technical staff in server technology at Durgapur. He's skilled in front-end development. He was also a former SD intern at 𝗗𝗃𝗃𝗿. We hope you pick up some great insights from his experiences of challenging interviews and journey of success.
Here we have with us our second panelist, Mr. Aditya Mitra. He's a proficient full-stack developer. He was an intern at IIT Guwahati and later at Texas Instruments. He used his exceptional skills to ace the recruitment rounds and received double offers from JPMC and Texas Instruments. He was eventually hired as a software development engineer at Texas Instruments. Under his guidance, we hope to gain an enhanced understanding of the mind-boggling mysteries of the interview rounds.
Next up, Ms. 𝗗𝗃𝗃𝗃, an alumnus of NIT Durgapur and the third panelist of Interface 2.0. She set priorities and worked hard to enhance her skills. She worked as a software developer intern at 𝗂𝗂𝗍𝗂𝗍. Her dedication and determination helped her get employed as a full-time software developer at Google. We're excited to know more about learning in the current update.
paved her path to glory through undying grit and determination. And we are honored to have her as a fourth panelist for Interface 2.0. Her exceptional skills and unwavering dedication enabled her to secure a spot as a semi-finalist in Amazon Hackathon 21. Her remarkable performance as an intern in Microsoft paved the way for her to be hired as a full-time software development engineer. Now, I would request Mr. Shashwat Gupta to start the informative session of Interface 2.0.
Hello. Yeah, am I audible? Hello.
Hello. I would request Shashwat, we have to wait for 2 minutes while
Okay.
we are setting up, and we will be starting with the informative session. Thank you.
Fine, not an issue.
Um, Now, I would request Mr. Shashwat Gupta to start the informative session of Interface 2.0. We would love to know about your experiences and journey. Over to you.
Yeah. So I hope I'm audible. Like, could a person from the OC please confirm? Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Right. So as all of us know that we have like commenced into the internship or placement season of 2023. So, as many of you will be knowing that there is an economic slowdown which is happening in the US, which is sort of percolating into our economy, and many even deserving candidates are finding it hard to get to land their deserved internships or job opportunities which they would have liked. So, at this moment, I would like to just remind everyone that the times are tough, but since all of us have many people are trying their best to land a job, and also we should all be leveled up and at our best of our abilities so that we can fare through this tough time. And when the conditions become conducive enough for us to actually get proper jobs, that time we are upskilled at the required level and get the jobs that we deserve. So for that, I would encourage all of you who are going through a placement, who are going through a lot of frustration and a lot of anxiety regarding how the placement calendar will plan out for the next 2 3 months. I would just suggest that trust the process and the results will take care of themselves. So all the things that we will discuss, me and my fellow panel members, Aditya, Tanushree, and Khushi Didi, all of us, which we will discuss, I would recommend all of you to take a leaf out of our books because, yes, we all of us were placed last year when the situation was not as bad as it is right now. I would suggest all of you to just listen carefully and try to take as many points as possible from this session because this could potentially be a deal breaker for you in the next 2 3 months and could land you the best possible job which you can get at the moment. Regarding the placement, a general insight I would like to give, many of my panel members will elaborate on this further, I'm sure, is that in the interview, it is not your technical skills or what you have done in the past 2 or 3 years which will land you a job. Yes, they play a very integral part in them deciding whether or not to take you in their company, but the deal breaker is often your personality. Obviously, that's why it's known as the personality test. Your technical skills have been tested in the previous 1 or 2 rounds, how many rounds may have passed technical rounds. But the most essential thing is they want to see whether you are willing to learn or not. That if you were to ask me in one line, what do they check in an interview? It's your conduciveness to the company's atmosphere, whichever company it may be, whichever company has come for the placement. They are seeing they don't want a person who has preconceived notions about the company, about how the work is being done or not. They just want a person who is skilled enough. Number one, he or she has to be skilled enough. Number two, whether he or she is willing to learn and go the extra mile in order to sort of blend into the company's atmosphere or not, whether he or she can be a perfect fit for the company's culture and contribute greatly and properly into the company's achievements, whatever it's achieving. So much more discussion on that. I'm sure my panel members will elaborate further. So I guess this can be a good takeaway from you. If you were to take away just one thing from this entire session, it would be this: that they want to test whether how willing you are and how conducive you are to the company's atmosphere and how willing you are to contribute. Everything else they will teach you in the company. Trust me. I have been working for 1.5 months. I am seeing that all that I knew is the company works in a much different manner. It's completely polar opposite of how the company works and what I thought the company did. And all this maturity comes with time, and you will obviously understand it. So for the interview, I would just say keep yourself technically skilled enough to a certain level, and second, be willing to learn and show that willingness in the interview. You would want the interviewers to know that yes, you are willing to learn, you are conducive to their thoughts and processes, and that you are hardworking and skilled enough. So I guess that would be it from my side, Ankur. uh,
Thank you so much, Priya.
yeah, thank you.
Here, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Should you participate in all recruitment processes wearing formal attire?
It actually gives off a good impression if you wear a formal attire, obviously, because the interviewer thinks that yes, you have taken the pain to sort of present yourself in the best manner possible, and you're not taking the interview very casually. So even if I would suggest that even if the company does not make it mandatory for you to be wearing a formal attire, I would suggest you put your best foot forward. Wear a formal attire, like take a haircut or something. Be decent, like look decent and look approachable. That's what I would want to say. But if to answer your question, I would suggest yes, 100%. You should wear a formal attire for all the interviews that you attend, whether or not it's mandatory for you to not wear formal attire or not. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would also now request the participants to participate in this question. What do you think? That should you wear formal attire? We have set up a poll in the chat section, and we would request the participants to tell us what do you think. Now, Mr. Aditya Mitra will take us through his journey and experiences. I would request Mr. Aditya Mitra to switch on their camera and talk about his experience.
Okay. Hi guys, am I audible and visible? Can you just confirm quickly?
Yes, you're
Okay,
audible.
great.
And
Okay, cool. So I'll start. Firstly, thank you so much for calling all of us for this panel discussion. And thank you, Shashwat, for sharing your experiences on this. It feels great to be back to, our alma mater and back to the amazing depths of that we were once a part of. So I'll jump straight to what it takes to ace an interview and all that. But before that, I feel that this is something, these kind of discussions are something that should not require much promotion or much forced, you can say, uh, kind of request for people to join and stuff, because you can see, like, we were also in NIT Durgapur. We know how much societies and clubs try to promote their events, but this is an event which I feel should not require any promotion at all, because this is something which the society DEPSOC is generally trying to do for all of your well-being, for all of your placement season, and I feel this is going to add a mark definitely to ensure that all of you land up great jobs and internships. So now, getting to the main agenda, right? So I would say getting a job or getting an internship from a NIT is way easier than, you can say, getting it from a tier 3 college, because even though yes, Shashwat is right, we have the recession going on and all that stuff being way more difficult than it was in our time, but we still, like, I was in contact with a few of the training and placement cell members of the college who are their representatives currently, I know that a lot of companies are going to come. A lot of companies have come. Even TI, Texas Instruments, had come a few days back, and yesterday I think the results were announced. So I can definitely say that a lot of companies are coming. So if you guys think that kuch nahi hone wala, I don't think I'll get a job, I don't think I'll get an internship, then you guys are definitely wrong. Now, when it comes to getting a job, right, almost 95 to 99% of you who are pursuing jobs and are skilled enough, yes, there is a luck factor, but almost all of you at the end of the academic year will end up having a handsome job at your hands, right? But when it comes to getting an internship, in IITs, yeah, it is relatively easier to get an internship. But in our college, even though the approximate percentage of people who end up getting up on campus internships around 10 to 15%, still I would say it's way better than other colleges whom I've observed till now. So, what I would like to say is yes, since Shashwat focused on more of the personality aspect of things, right, and how you need to be presentable, how you need to have a overall good attire, etc. I would focus on what it takes apart from that to prepare and ensure that you are well conversed adequately enough with the placement requirements and setup that a company requires. So, first of all, I know some of you would be going for a core job, some of you would be going for a technical job, right? And for internships, mostly people are not that well, off with what they want, but people are more open to internships in any domain. I've seen that as well. So, what I would like to say is when it comes to getting an internship, let's start with that. If you're looking for an IT internship, you need to know firstly the company, before the company round start, you need to have a good requirement of a good skill of DSA, at least if it's for IT internships. You need to have had certain projects in your resume. You need to be well versed with the computer science fundamentals. Mostly for when it comes to placements, they also get into operating systems and networking, all that. But for internships, they usually restrict the requirements to object oriented programming principles and database management systems, SQL, etc. And I feel that's what I know. So I feel the other panelists can later on elaborate on that. Apart from that, it's good if you have certain open source contributions. It's good if you have participated in contests, code forces, at coder, etc. And obviously, whatever you've written in your resume, right, it should be something which you know very well about. People usually try to go and practice Striver's sheet, Love Bubber sheet, and whatnot, and they try to solve 300, 400 DSA problems before the interviews. Usually, it's not that which gets you the interview correct. Usually, it is what you have written in your resume and how credible that is, right? To what amount, to what percentage can you hold that accountable? Because there is something which is, I would like to point out two stark differences between an interview process as of what a college student feels it is going to be and what it in reality is, right? So technically what happens is almost all of us, most of us in colleges tend to sit for club interviews and society auditions, right? So we tend to draw a parallel between club auditions and technical rounds or HR rounds of companies. Well, there is a huge difference. Well, what happens is in when it comes to club auditions, right? Almost every club in our college, in NIT Durgapur or in any other college, they tend to have a more stringent process, right? They tend to have a very strict process of interviews. They will sit, they'll grow beards and stuff. They'll sit in front of your monitor or laptop with their video on, having a notepad in their hands, trying to write down whatever you're saying, and they tend to assume that you are coming from, like, they tend to assume that you are coming from a very nervous state, so they tend to exploit that. They tend to take advantage of that, and they tend to make sure that you are cornered, and then you can answer what you have built out of your impulsive state. But in technical or company interviews, it's not the same, right? They tend to make you as comfortable as possible. Whenever an interviewer comes to take an interview, it is mandated by the HR of every company that you have to make the candidate very, very, very comfortable so that they can be at their perfect state when they're giving an interview. They can have the best of the best answers. And basically, there's another difference that I would like to point out. This was the first difference. Secondly, a lot of us tend to compare our college professors or our academic teachers to our interviews. Well, it's not the same. Well, when you were in your school, right, your teachers used to have a very different approach, right? Or in college as well, they tend to have a approach where they try to corner you. They try to make sure that you don't get as much marks that you could have gotten, right? They tend to be very strict with the marking process. And they tend to ensure that the next time you can write even better answers. So a lot of you feel that when you're at their interviews, the interviewer will make you very nervous. The interviewer will be as strict as a college professor, and no, that's absolutely wrong, right? So the interviewers are, again, they are there to take you. A company has to pay a very huge amount of money to interview candidates, to take that online assessment. So they are actually there to hire candidates. They are not there to reject candidates, right? So they have actually come there to ensure that they take away a few candidates, because they have to pay a huge amount to a hiring company to come there and hire candidates, right? So these are two differences which I feel should be noted by everyone who is watching this stream. Next, let's have a look at what I feel is some of the very important aspects when it comes to focusing on how you study for an interview, or how you study to ensure that you get a job or an interview correct, or an internship correct. So I'll tend to keep it restricted to 5-6 points. So the first point which I like to always stress on is, no matter what you're interviewing for, which role it is, data analyst or software engineer or management trainee or some core role, whatever it is, focus on the very basic and core concepts of that particular stream. Usually, it is that interviewers know that they are in a college, they should not ask very difficult questions. They tend to ask you what's written in your CV and what the basic college requirement suggests that an interviewee should know. So they will tend to focus on the core concepts. That is something that you always need to have in your disposal. Second, a lot of us tend to make, I would say, they tend to make a lot of virtualization, and they tend to make a lot of virtual notes that they make while they are preparing, right? Like initially, what I did was I used to have a Microsoft OneNote on, and whenever I used to study, I used to have the important points written down there. Well, it's proven psychologically that it's better if you tend to write down notes in your copy by hand rather than typing it out, because that, according to psychology, gives you better retention. Okay, so that is the second point that I would like to cover. Third, this is something that has helped me a lot. This is Parkinson's law. So let's say मैंने सोचा कि okay, I need to practice 5 DSA questions, data structures and algorithms questions from lead code today. And today I woke up, I thought, okay, this is my goal for the end of the day. A lot of you might be doing this, right? Okay, आज रात तक मुझे 5 questions करने हैं कुछ भी करके. So what happens is the night passes and you realize you have only, let's say, done 3, or you have not reached whatever your target was initially. Now what happens is Parkinson's law states that work expands to the time you provide it. So it's kind of ironical, but it's true. If you don't give a strict time to whatever your aim is, the time expands and it gives room for itself to expand more. So it's better if you give particular time formats to when you study. It leads to better focus, and you are more better up at completing whatever your aim was. Uh, Fourth point, again, I feel this is really important. A lot of us feel, okay, मेरे दोस्त का तो interview हो गया, मेरे दोस्त का placement लग गया, he got an intern, wow, उसका तो life set है, chill है, अब तो कुछ नहीं है, अब तो बस chill करेगा पूरा time, if you know what I mean. So, well, that's not really the case. Not everyone has their life set, you can say, by just getting a placement. It's a long process. Even in our batch, I know a lot of people who got a placement last year, but still they haven't had their job started because of certain company policies and stuff. So whenever you have a friend who has got an interview, who has aced an interview or stuff, don't try to compare yourself to them, right? Instead, try to ask them for tips. Try to ask them to take mock interviews of yours. Try to ask them, यार कैसा गया तेरा interview, क्या क्या पूछा. Okay, try to put yourself in their shoes and see, okay, if I would have had that interview, right, would I be able to ace it? Would I be able to answer those questions, right? So try to see it from that perspective. It will broaden your perspective, it will broaden your mind. And the last point, which I feel is the most important, is how do you, like, see, whenever you're in an interview, right, you have to explain stuff to the interviewer. So what I feel is, in this there is a technique which helps a lot. It's called the Feynman technique. So I don't know the exact pronunciation, but I'll tell you what it is. So let's say you are practicing something, or you are revising a concept, let's say polymorphism and oops, right? So whatever you have learned, right, try to explain it to other people. Try to go to other people and explain it to them. If you don't have friends, let's say, then try to explain it to, let's say, an inanimate object, right? Try to take a doll, not the horror ones, but try to take a doll or any stuff and try to explain it, whatever you're trying to learn, to that inanimate object. It will help you grasp that concept better. When you explain something to someone and you get to feel, okay, this is something which I did not know, this is something which I lacked, or this is something which I have to study again, maybe मेरे को याद नहीं आ रहा. So this is something which will definitely help you, right? I think that's about it for the 5 points that you have to take in, you have to keep in mind. Something else that I have is, before an interview, have your introduction ready. That is the first impression that you make on an interviewer, and that is the most important thing that, drives the interview, I would say. Because oftentimes, more often than not, right, your introduction in the beginning of the interview would set a base for the interviewer to ask you questions on. Let's say you say, okay, I am proficient in the Mon stack, or I am familiar with React JS, blah blah blah. They would tend to ask you questions on that, starting with, okay, what do you know about this framework? What is it that you don't know? How does it work? Etc. etc. So it's better if you have an introduction ready, because it creates a very huge impact. And I think there's another thing which I would like to. Is it going too long, or can one of the hosts?
No, you can. If you want, you can continue as
Okay, okay.
as you prefer.
Okay, cool. So a lot of us, like in my college second year, at least, what even in third year, I feel what I used to do was I used to use the term CV and resume interchangeably, right? But technically, if you notice very clearly, they are very different. A resume is a one-page document. A resume cannot be longer than a one-page document. It has to have all your details summarized in one page. A CV, on the other hand, can be a bigger document. It can have your photo. It can have your academic details. It can have your, detailed semester-wise, you can say CGPA, SGPA, all that, and it can have a lot more detail to it. But a resume has to be a one pager. So oftentimes we note, I remember this happened to a few of my friends in the company portal when they were applying, right? It was asking for a resume and they submitted a CV. Later on, they figured out, okay, it's different, and they freaked out. So that is something that you should keep in mind. Apart from that, what else? I think the rest of the panelists will cover everything else. I feel whatever happens, do not lose hope, because as Shashwat said, right, you will. It will take time for you to ace an interview, but oftentimes what happens is, uh, one of our greatest faults is that we have a huge concern for outcomes. यार उसका लग गया, मेरा नहीं लगा, क्या होगा, ये वो, I don't know what is going to happen to me, am I not good enough, blah blah blah. Oftentimes what I've seen is, all of my friends, even me, we used to panic a lot, but all of us ended up getting a good placement or internship at the end of the day, right? So what happens is, these preoccupied notions, these preoccupied you know concept of being occupied with outcomes and results creates unnecessary trouble, creates unnecessary anxiety, fear, etc. So it's better to just keep preparing and let the companies come, keep applying off campus, and unless and until you get a placement or internship, keep acing it, keep preparing, because you never know when you get an offer. You never know when you might get the opportunity. I remember people used to say, like, I remember some of my batchmates used to say, "Yeah, nahi mil raha, kuch nahi ho raha," and they had given an Amazon interview 2 months back, and today they got the offer saying you have been placed. So the past 2 months they were so, stressed out. Yeah, result nahi aa raha, no companies coming, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, they are at a very good company now. So what matters is how long you can be patient, right? I feel that's about it, and I'll let the other panelists share their experiences.
Thank you, Mr. Aditya Mitra, for telling us these enlightening words about the technical aspects of interview and how uh, to use certain mechanisms to ace your interview. Like you talked about the Feynman technique. Um, I would, shifting from this technical aspect, I would just like to ask you one question, a little bit personal. You were started as a participant in this club, and then you gradually got promoted to an OC, and now you have again came to this event as this time as a panelist. And so, how do you feel, and what changes do you see in the process of hosting an event?
Okay, first change which I see is definitely the college internet broadband has totally gone to hell, right? Because I can see you guys have been trying to set up this session for a long time, but the college bandwidth just doesn't support it. That is a huge difference. In our time, we somehow managed to have almost 600 Mbps data speed, and it somehow worked out. Uh, Now, pointing out the differences, I feel, yeah, it's been a huge it's been a long journey, right? Since when I came to the college, got into DevSoc, that was a huge thing for me as well. And from being a participant to an OC member takes a lot of effort, I feel. Yeah, needs, like, and I would have to commend all of you for that, your will and dedication towards the club and towards the college itself, towards the students in promoting these insightful events. Now, coming to the difference that I see now, again, seeing it from an external perspective, you guys have grown a lot. You guys have, like, when we were there, right, you guys were still kids. Now you guys, I see a lot of responsibility in you. So kudos to that. Keep progressing. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Now we have a question for the participants, so we would like you to shoot your answers in the chat box. Well, thing is, we're not sure if we should disclose any of the specifics of the recruitment process to other people, be it your friends or your family members or whatever. So we have the poll set up in the chat box. So now we would like to invite Ms. 𝗗𝗲𝗃 to take us through her journey. Over to you.
So, hi everyone. Like Shashwat and Adi were my juniors, and to see them giving their experience, sharing their experience, it's like we have grown quite a lot. So that gives me like a hit that it has been 1 year in corporate life for me. So yeah, as in the introduction, it was said that I am currently placed in Ola Electric as an SD, and I've been here in 1 year. And I can say that as a startup, this is very fast paced. So corporate life will teach you a lot of things. Going to interview experience, what I would like to share is like Shashwat and Aditya have already shared like the technical experience. What I would like to share is the screw ups that can happen in an interview, because I have given some interviews. I have screwed up in every interview, and after that you get a feeling like the world is about to end, because for final year students or third year students, what main thing is like you have to get placed. So even if you do a little bit of screw up, it seems like the world is ending. So I want to tell you that what screw ups I did. So in my final year, I was sitting for PwC, I think so. That was the first offer I got. So in that interview, first of all, you have 3 rounds. So first round was technical round. As soon as you go into an interview, the first question that they ask is please introduce yourself. So that is very important how you frame that answer. So what I will suggest is write down that answer in a sheet that could be of 1 minute. 1 minute introduction is best. In that you should have your a little bit of your background, where did you study, branch, and all of those things. Second point is what are your skills. So that skill part is important because that will frame the next question. So the interview would not look at your CV or something. You are speaking your introduction. that could frame your next question. So in which direction you want to take the interview, it's in your hand in that introduction itself. So like I introduced like my skills are in C++, Python and JavaScript. So the next question was based on that itself. So I took the direction a nerdy person itself. You have some hobbies, you have a personality outside of your college life itself. So one more point is, if you have a good CGPA, mention that. If you do not have a good CGPA, do not go to CGPA topic. Because I did not have a good CGPA, I did not go to that topic itself. Because once you mention your CGPA, right? So if it's lower, what the interviewer asks, can you defend like why is your CGPA low? Because you are going to college, you are going for study, why is your CGPA low? Why should we hire you if your CGPA is low? That shows that you are not a consistent student, or you are not hardworking. So you have to defend. Then you have to prepare that question itself. And for people who have low CGPA or SGPA, please like prepare that answer. Because in one interview, I was asked that question and I screwed up in that question. So please prepare as to why your CGPA is low, because there would be a reason. Either your extracurriculars, that you were in extracurriculars, so go towards that direction. Yeah, I was busy with my extracurriculars or some or the other issue. Try to maintain that you were working on something else, you were trying to develop something else. Then in technical interviews, some technical questions were asked and all of those things. uh, so the feed and after every interview, please ask some question, at least one or two questions, because that shows that you are enthusiastic to know about the company itself. And before going to the interview, research about the company, whatever you want to know about it. Like for example, compensation package. Just look at it. You won't be able to negotiate as a fresher that on campus. Off campus, you can negotiate. So do your research for the company. Then then was a HR round. So HR round, I did a screw up. That was HR round is supposed to be very easy. That guy was asking me, he like, can you tell me about what the job entails? So I said some things, and then the guy said, did you read the job description? This is not the job entails. This is not at all what the job entails. So I was like, what happened? Because someone saying to you did not, this shows like you did not even research the job, or you did not read the job, you are not understanding what the job entails, and you are hoping to get selected in that. But somehow I was given to the next round. So like that is a huge screw up. So please make sure that you do you are in a mind as to what the job description is. Like, don't go into very detailed description as I did. That is one of the screw ups, main screw ups that can happen. Third was like managerial round that happens in PwC, where a higher manager, senior manager, comes to take your interview. So my interview was in two parts, technical and based on extracurriculars. Technical, he asked me about projects and all, what projects I did, and explained it to him, what that entails, and he asked me some questions about it. So project part is very important. Whatever project you are writing in your CV, resume, uh, make sure that you know whether you did the project or not. That is a different thing. You want to lie on your resume, that is up to you. But if you are going to lie on your resume, please make sure that you are going to lie very well, because make sure you have the details of that project. You can answer any question that the interviewer asks. It should not be very technical. It's okay if you are not able to answer very technical questions, but a detailed description is very important. So projects are very important part of your resume. Projects and your internship, whatever you did, the interview does not want to know ki you did very technical thing, or you made an invention out of it, you made a discovery in your internship or something. They want to know, did you learn anything from that or not? It could be a very minute project, but they should know that you learned something out of it, you actually did the work, or you learned. That is the thing that interviewers want when they ask about your project. Second point, he asked me about extracurricular activities. So extracurricular activities are important, volunteering and your clubs and all. Some interviews like that. To be honest, some interviews like that. he did something, he or she did something, or they were on national level, they were on international level, or they were on college level, but they did something. That shows your because extracurricular activities take time. You have to take time out of your schedule, like extras you have to give. Okay, that cuts out your friend circle and your social life and etc. That cuts out. So you are making an effort to do the extra work. So that is like an added point. If you're not a part of club, it's okay. That is not like a very major point, but it adds on to the point. So this was like the PwC interview. Now we'll go to Olaka interview. So it was like the coding round was there. So 3 questions were there. All 3 questions I had done. So I got selected, and 4 other people were there. Now, when it was my turn in the first round, it was a technical round. So the first he asked me introduction and all. I did. Then first question he asked me was a coding question, and he wanted to have it in a singular way, and I did not know that singular way. I had it another way, like a brute force way. He was like, "No, you have to do it in this way." I was like, "I won't be able to do. I do not know this." And you see, you are saying that in an interview, that shows like you do not know. So that interviewer was like, how are you supposed to be a software engineer if you do not know this way? I got very scared at that moment. Like, that was the first question he asked. He is giving me that feedback, but still I was like, okay, what is the worst that could happen? I won't get the job, it's okay, I will try another day. So in that interview itself, you do not lose your smile. That is the thing. Do not lose the smile. Do not lose the confidence. It's okay. Worst thing can happen. You won't get it. Anyways, there's a 50-50% chance, right? So, second question he asked, I explained it to him full well. He was also supportive, but it was chance like I would not get it. In my brain, it was for sure. So I was like, okay, I'll give it my 100%. Whatever happens, in my brain it was already, yeah, I won't get selected. Then he was like, do you have any questions for me? I asked 2 questions, and then oh, then that is where the interview should finish. But then I don't know what happened. He asked me about my hobbies. I was like, I like reading books. Then he was like, physical books or PDF? So I was like, physical book. He was like, what books are you reading? We had a conversation. Apparently he was also a book lover. So we had a conversation. Then he started asking me some questions, how to promote physical book reading, like how you have to create an event out of it. So I am just trying to tell you that a technical interview cannot be a technical interview also. Sometimes interviewer wants to know how much creative of a person you are, or how much on the spot you can create answers. So he asked me that. So we had a long discussion of how to promote book reading. Ola has to promote this. So how will you do it? So like there your creative aspect might come into hand, and somehow I got the job after that. It might have impressed the interview. So that is a luck factor again. So I'm just wanted to tell that you can screw up an interview, but still you can get it. Do not lose the confidence during an interview. After that, you can have a mental breakdown. That is completely okay. But during an interview, do not lose the confidence. Always have a smile. What's the worst can happen? You won't get it. That's it. And some points that I would like to add is whatever for HR questions itself, HR questions are like out of technical questions. Make a list of questions, answer those questions, like make a document of it. Yeah, so so I'll just wrap it up. So just make a document and write the question and answer for that. So in your brain, do not learn them. I'm just trying to say, just have a note of them so you know what points you have to say in which question. That's the thing. So that's from my side, and all the best, guys, for your future interviews.
Oh, thank you so much. We have a question. Uh, so, We have a question. How can we as candidates like effectively follow up after an interview, like without being too without being too pushy?
So you're asking for a feedback from the interviewer. After the
Yes.
interview, you want to ask for a feedback. So first of all, I don't think so that is allowed in a this thing on campus placement, because you have to contact through your TPR. So in on campus, off campus, you would have a HR ka mail. So you can reply to that. Ask them, ki, usually what is the feedback for my interview? You can use Chat GPT to frame it very nicely without being pushed. You can use Chat GPT to get that prompt. Uh, it's very normal to ask a feedback from an off-campus interview. It's actually appreciated to get a feedback. Also, you can ask for a feedback in your on-campus placements also during an interview. So what you can do is, when the interviewer asks you, do you have any questions for me? You can ask at that time, what is the feedback for my interview? Like, how did the interview go? Where do you think I have gone wrong in the interview? Because I have asked that question. An interviewer have actually told me where I went wrong. Okay. So usually people don't prefer it because they lose confidence. But again, if you want, you can ask the feedback for on campus during the interview. Off campus also you can ask during the interview. If the interview is like, you can ask that question. It depends on the interview whether they'll tell you or not. So don't ask it again. That will be pushy. Then you off or off campus, you will have HR come in, mail them, HR or technical person. You can find them on LinkedIn or something. So technical person also, you have that email. So you can go towards them. You can ask the HR, can I get the interview email so that I can get a feedback? Or you can ask the HR itself. That's the thing.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Now, let us set up. We have set up a poll in the YouTube chats, and we would like to ask what the chat thinks. That is it advisable to provide your institute email ID or your personal email ID to apply when applying for any recruitment opportunities? Please share your thoughts in the poll.
Now I would request Ms. Tanushi Bhattacharya to share her experiences with us.
Hello, am I audible? Host, can you just confirm if I'm audible and visible?
Yes, you.
Okay. Thank you, Shivani. And thank you to DebSoc for calling me as a panelist. Like it, this event started when we were in like our third year, was probably during the lockdown period, and ever since. And it's great to be back here again as a panelist this time. So yeah, thank you, DebSoc, and thank you to all my fellow panelists. We have already covered a lot of points about interviews. There is not much else you can say. But yeah, so let me go back to why this event was started, right? Because I was there as part of the club when this event started. And basically, every time during placement season, how much ever prepared you think you are, you will always have that nervousness, just before the placement season starts. I think every third year and final year in the college can vouch for this right now. Until and unless you're placed, there's a certain level of nervousness. And sitting here after going through like my fair share of interviews, I can tell you that there are small points of contention that you don't know the first few times you're going into an interview. So since most of the overall points have been covered by my fellow panelists, I would just go over a few points from my own personal experience. So first of all, let's start before the interview process, right? We'll just touch upon the resume part once, because I know the hosts already have a session planned after this for that. So I'll not go into much detail, but one of the main things is big companies, especially like I'm talking about technical companies specifically, and like coding based companies. So they don't go. They receive a lot of applications, right? A lot of applications, a lot of resumes, and none of these companies go through all of these resumes to like one by one. So there are online like ATS checkers and other type of resume parsers that mostly companies use to go through these resumes. And so one of the most foolproof way to pass the resume round, at least I would say, resume sorting round, at least I would say, is use online resume parsers, use ATS checkers. There is free online sites present where you can do that. So just go through that once first, see and try to get a good score, because that ensures that your resume at least will pass for the resume sorting round. The smallest thing matter, how you have presented it, whether the machine can read it perfectly. And even if you have written everything, it might be just that it's not getting passed by the machine, so it's not passing. And that can happen in a lot of cases. So yes, checking small stuff like this is important before the interviews. Now moving on to the interview itself, right? And also like check other people's check other people's resumes who have already given interviews, see how they have put it. Be part of communities where opportunities are coming. So these are just a few like pre-interview measures you should keep in mind, right? Now moving on to the technical rounds. So mostly, as most of our fellow panelists have already covered. So you will mostly have 2 or 3 kinds of rounds. There will be the technical round, obviously, since I'm guessing that most of the audiences are engineers. So yeah, so there will be a technical round, obviously, but there will also be an HR round, and in some cases there might be a GD round. The technical rounds, right? So most of your first few rounds in an interview will always be technical, and technical rounds like, okay, so there's obviously the factor of how much prepared you are, right? How much questions you have solved, how much DSE you have done, how much OOPs you have done, and everything, which have already been covered by my panelists, how you can prepare for that, and how you can remember those questions and all that. But there's also the main point of a technical interview is also how you can present yourself, right? And this I have seen through my own personal experience. I have been in interviews where the interviewer has gone completely silent, right? So it's just you, and the burden of continuing the interview is not on the interviewer, right? He's not getting hired into the company, you are getting hired into the company. So the burden of continuing the interview is always on you. And so never let an interview go silent. Always walk through the steps. Even if you code it very nicely, you have to explain every line to your interviewer. You have to present the whole thing in such a way that it is easier for the interviewer to understand, and also that he is always engaged in whatever you are writing. I might just write code and get out, and I have written the most perfect code, but I might not be selected for the next round. Why? Because the interviewer thought that I was not communicative enough. I did not communicate my solution well enough, because there are number of approaches to a solution to a problem, right? So if I don't explain my solution, the interviewer will just assume that, okay, maybe she has like done it before, maybe she has wrought learned it in her mind, but that doesn't give you the clarification that yes, I can explain this piece of code that I've written. So going through all the steps and explaining it and never letting the interview go silent is a very important part of an interview. Also, if you don't know something, you can just tell the interviewer that, because interviewers are experienced, right? They have seen a lot of people who try to pretend, and they have seen people who actually know, so they know how to sniff it out. So if you don't know something, don't waste your time or the interviewer's time. Move on. Tell them that yes, you don't know, and it shows that yes, you're willing to learn and you're willing to accept your mistakes. So that's always a good point for you. So don't always try to answer all the questions. Don't try if you don't know the answers, don't try to hesitate and mumble your way through it. Tell the interviewer clearly, and this goes for even the HR rounds, right? Uh, right. And yeah, coming to that same point, like even in HR rounds, just try to be truthful. Try to keep your answers as concise as possible, because after one point you will lose your interviewers, right? And they will cut you off. So try that it doesn't come to that point that your interviewer has to cut you off. You can give the most specific, concise answer from your part. And yeah, so as Khushidi already mentioned, try to know about the company, right? Try, when you're going for an interview, try to know about the company, try to know what you're going in for, because that shows that you have put effort into this interview, right? You have put effort and you are hardworking, and you will continue to put effort for the company. Try to know about the company, try to prepare a few questions for the interviewers. Always never end an interview without a question, and never end an interview without feedback, without asking for feedback. So that always shows that you are willing to learn, and you have the correct attitude for joining the company. So it's a plus point for the interviewers. And yeah, I think that's it. Like, you know the interview processes are tough. So, and there are too many opportunities, especially in a college like in IITs. There are too many opportunities. So don't lose hope. Like, go on, and I'm pretty sure everybody who is attending the session will have a good opportunity by the end of the year. So here's hoping to that. And thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you, Ms. 𝗗𝗂𝗃𝗃, for your enlightening words about how to merge the technical side and the human side of any kind of interview round. Now, I have a question for you. We have been hearing a lot about how we should know more about the company and the importance of being genuine yet enthusiastic in any interview. Can you share any strategies where we can present ourselves as such to the interviewers?
Strategies for presenting yourself in an enthusiastic way is not that much strategy as such, I would say. It's more like research about the company before you go in. There's no strategy. It's just like dumb hard work, right? Know about the company, know what kind of questions they are asking, know what kind of technical fields they are working on, like just do basic research, right? And yeah, so, and also have some, like, knowledge about what is going on in the technical fields recently, like what's there in the news, what is happening. Even if you don't keep up with everything, just have at least 1 or 2 points in your mind. So you can always, in case the interviewers ask, you can always refer back to those points. And in case the interviewers ask about their company, you always have those points written down and remembered that yes, maybe these are the points that represent the integrities of this company, that they try to promote and stuff. So try to keep that, like, those points in mind, so that the interviewer knows that yes, you are putting effort, and you would be a good like fit for the company. If you're trying to say that, like, let's say the points, the the main points of a company are something like inclusivity and diversity, right? So when you're putting those points, you say that. And one of the next questions that can be followed is that how you have integrated any of these qualities into your own life, into your own like personal experiences, right? So always have some prepared story in your mind, kind of how you can present to the interviewer, that yes, if I say that yes, I have been in a diverse environment, I have interacted with people, I have led people, I have whatever example you're giving. So just have those stories in mind also, that you can refer back to. So yeah, I think that's it. And the interviewer is going to lead you to those questions. So you don't need to be leading the interviewer towards telling them that, you know what, I know your company stands for this. No, you don't have to do that. If they ask, that's okay. Otherwise, you don't have to mention it. It's a burden on the part of the interviewer. So yeah, it's okay. Just know your part.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. 𝗗𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, for your enlightening words. Now, going back to the did you know questions that we put up in the poll, we have the stats. Now, for the first question that we had, that is it wise to withhold opportunity details from outsiders or outside in our other branches? Well, we have 63% answering yes, and obviously the answer is yes.
For the next question, we had, should you participate in all recruitment procedures wearing formal attires? Well, 84% of the people said yes, while only 15% said no. Well, so the majority is clear, and the answer is that you should be wearing formal clothes during your interview process.
And for our last poll question that we had, which email ID is preferred to be used for applying for any on-campus recruitment process, while 49% opted for personal mail ID, and the answer is personal mail ID. Now, thank you so much to all the panelists. Now we would like to take a short break for 2 to 3 minutes, where we'll be getting back with our CV building session, which we are all waiting for. So we'll be back in 2 to 3 minutes.
Well, this is the time we have all been waiting for. Finally, we'll be having our CV building session. The term curriculum vitae and its abbreviation CV are especially used in academia or industries to refer to extensive or even complete summaries of a person's career, qualifications, and education, including publications and other information.
Panelists, this is the CV that I built for my first interview. Panelists, what do you think about this and what changes do you suggest? Please take us through. Panelists, what do you think about the CV?
Okay, would any of you like to go first?
Yeah, I guess you can go ahead.
Okay, so I just saw the CV. This looks fine. However, I can see that there are a few changes that it will require. So, first of all, what I can see is let's start from top to bottom. Okay, so in the academic background, you have written your bachelor's degree and master's degree and all that, but you haven't mentioned your grade or CGPA whatsoever goes on, right? So that is something that needs to be added. Moreover, in your internships and work experience, right? You have not mentioned anything about that particular experience that I can see. You have just mentioned the address, so that is not enough. You need to maybe add a few bullet points about what work you have done there. In the interest section, you have just given these images of items, which are definitely not enough. It's better to just write these things down, just to pin these down, and instead of showing images, because they could mean different things to different people. Like the last one where you're writing down things, it could mean you're good at writing. It could also mean you are good at anything else. So this would be subjective. Also, usually one page resumes do not include an image. Like, it is mostly descriptive. So the image, I feel, even though it's there, it does not add much value.
Sure. Can I add something, Aditya, if you're done?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so also like one point is two column resumes don't go well, as I had mentioned, right, with resume parsers. So especially if you're working, especially if it's for a software job kind of thing, it's always better to have a one column resume. Okay, note down the points exactly, have broader headings, and as Aditya mentioned, don't put pictures or anything. Put proper numbers, proper. Also, there isn't a lot of details about anything, whether that is about internships or any academic background. uh, Try to put numbers in all sections of the resume, right? So if you're writing about internships, also try to put up, there should be more detailed numbers about how much, say, percentage of uh, you know customer uh, experience, or something you increase, right? So something, try to give proper numbers, like specific details that can hit the interviewers. So
Okay, so I like to add the points. Tanu, are you done?
yeah, sure, they go ahead.
So first of all, like as mentioned, in usually the image is not required until or unless the company asks for it. If you are going for a designer profile, then fancy resumes are required. So like you can see this resume is a little bit fancy, so this could go for a like your designer profile, like you go for UX designer or product designer, something like that. So that shows your creativity and all of those things. Second point is like we can see the part of career objective. That is usually not necessary because that takes up space and has not relevant information. So it could be, if you want to add, you can keep it short. About me and contact could be like a one line thing, not necessary to have this much space. Skills, you have to mention both your technical skills and your personal skills, personality wise. uh, they have shown some bar as to how much they are experienced in. It's usually not necessary. You can mention in your bullet points what all skills you have. It's okay to have it, but yeah. Expertise, it's okay. I don't know. It's comes in technical skills itself. Not necessary to have that. Academy background. If you have, again, if you have CGPA, mention the CGPA. Whatever you have, mention years. Not necessarily have to be this big. If you have some extra achievements, you can mention that in that section. For example, if you topped the university or you were the top 5 rankers in your batch, you can mention that in that section itself. Then internships and projects are the main section of your resume. In this, they have just mentioned the internship, like where did they do the internship, what they did, what all experience they gained, they did not mention. So, as Tanushri mentioned, you have to give a numeric value to that experience itself. So, internship part and project part are the most important part and should get a good space in that resume itself. So, take bullet points for each of the internships you do. For example, if you did a internship in your third year, mention bullet points like what all things you did, what all skills you use in that internship, particular on that project. So that point is important. So internships and projects are the main point that should come on top. Then comes your extracurriculars or interest, as mentioned here in this resume. So hobbies go in the last priority. No need to mention. If you have space, you can mention. Extracurriculars, if your extracurricular activities are the key points, then you put the bullet points as to what you learned in that and what you did. If you have a post, you do that. Mention that post itself. And I think so that is what I found in this resume are the wrong things that could go. So
Yeah, so what I feel are the issues in this. First of all, I feel that in the interest section, I think it could be better represented by writing extracurricular activities, because interest is a very generic term and it could convey a lot of things to the person who's reviewing the resume. So I guess extracurricular activities would be a sort of a better way of depicting what you have done. And the using of icons is like, I understand that it has probably been done to there's a lack of space, so that's why it's been done. But I feel that if he could write extracurricular activities and mention probably two or three of his most major ones, then that would have a better impact than generically putting in icons to represent his interests. Moreover, I feel that skills and expertise, that section could have been combined and written in a more space effective manner, because I feel that a lot of space has been wasted over there. And if that area could have been like arranged in a more compact manner, then you would have space for the extracurricular activities. So, and I think other issues have been addressed by Tanushri, Aditya, and Khushidi. So, I think this should be it for this resume from my side. Thanks.
Do you have any? Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's it from my side. Tanushri, Aditya, Khushidi, you have anything else to add?
Okay, so one last thing, I feel like, yeah, I feel like, in our colleges, this feels like a resume taken out of Canva or something, but in our colleges, we usually have a fixed template for the headers that are there in resumes, right? So usually there's like a header of education, then skills, work experience, projects, then extracurriculars, and one is, I think, positions of responsibility. So these are headers that are typically there, and interviewers are usually used to seeing these headers. So it's better if you maintain the format to the way it's supposed to be, right? That's about it from my side.
Thank you so much. We can now move on to our next CV.
Of education, then skill.
Okay, so yeah, where do we start? There are too many points to say in this. So yeah, first of all, if you're making a CV like this, try to have all the details, all your personal details that would be required for the interviewers to contact you at the top, right? So first of all, your phone number, your email, if you want to link your LinkedIn profile or something, since we send a lot of virtual CVs nowadays, so you can add links and stuff. So all of that and the address should be at the top, right? So it's easier always for the interviewer to contact you. Right. Uh, would any of my panelists like to continue? I'm still thinking of more points.
Okay, so from my side, I would like to. Am I audible? Right?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So, like in this resume, we can see that they have mentioned points. Okay, they have done this, they have done that in words. So that is not required, as I've said. So in the previous resume, you would have seen that they mentioned year as to from when and when till when they did that thing. So that is a good point. But the thing here, as I mentioned earlier, information has to be given as to what you did. So here it's mentioned, like 6 months worked in some company as a line operator. So this could come into your bullet points. As I said, mention the role, company can be come below that, and the year mentioned, and then do what you did in that. Second point is academic. So there are complete sections that have been given. So priority has been given to objective first. It's up to you if you want to add that or not. Second, priority is given to academic qualification. That is a good point. Third is professional qualification as to what your uh, is like training is in what professionally. So that is again comes under academic section itself. Then industrial training could be like your internship or something. So internship comes before project. That is a priority order. And then work experience. Work experience should come. If you have experience in work, so that should come first, then your internship, and then your projects. So that is a priority order that you have to maintain. And strength, they have mentioned one. I don't know. So strength you should not write. You should write your skills. So that would be another section.
Okay, so should I continue?
Hmm.
Okay, Didi. So yeah, like as the other panelists mentioned, uh, like I said before, this is not a typical format for a resume. There are typical headers that you put. So the headers are not something that is usually there. So you can go to the typical headers, right? Secondly, like Didi said, it's better to put the years or experience in like months or years in a numberized in the number format rather than writing it in words. If you're mentioning your strengths, see, usually strengths and weaknesses are not mentioned in a single page resume. It's usually mentioned in a CV, which is quite longer. But if you're mentioning your strength, it should have a few points, not just one single thing saying you're punctual. Well, everyone is punctual if it comes to getting a job. But you should also mention your weaknesses if you're mentioning your strengths, because both of them go hand in hand. Now, coming to strengths and weaknesses, if we are covering that point, I'd like to add something to that. So, while you're mentioning strengths and weaknesses, right? When you highlight a weakness, this is something that a lot of people ask. How do you mention weaknesses in your resume? Or let's say an interviewer asks you, "What is your weakness?" How do you mention that? So, whatever weakness you mention, right, you should ensure that you add a point regarding how you can convert that to your strength, or how you possess a strength that can somehow compensate for it. So let's say I say that I am not a communicator, I'm not that good in public speaking. So you can say that, okay, even though I'm not good in public speaking, I'm attending various sessions where there are various events on public speaking, or I am a creative person, so it kind of compensates for it. So this is something that you can keep in mind for future. Apart from this, I feel the objective entire header is not something that people usually write. So I feel this resume, if seen by an interviewer, it would take them 2 to 3 seconds to disapprove of it directly, not longer. Because they would just see the way it's mentioned, they won't even read the points, because they know, okay, this person has not put in the effort to go through a typical interview, or to go through how a typical CV looks, or the resume looks, and they have not put in any effort, so they will not just pay heed to it. Yeah, Shashwat, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, Aditya, I think you have covered most of the points. Like, one very staggering thing that you can easily notice is that it looks like someone has just jotted down his or her achievements on a Word file. So it's not looking like it's a CV which is being used to sort of represent your skills on a single piece of paper. So that this arrangement of objective academic qualifications and all this is not very appealing to the eyes, and it's very hard for the person who is, imagine a person who is going through hundreds or 200s of CVs in a day, and he or she will obviously reject this because it is not putting forward a great appearance. First appearance to the person shows a lack of effort, as Aditya has said. Moreover, many technical details are there, like in academic qualifications, just writing pass matriculation and not giving any further, sort of further information of how many marks have been obtained, what kind of a division has been obtained, professional qualification and all, and industrial training. Industrial training is just mentioned for 2 days. What you have done, what you have learned, all of that is not explicitly mentioned. And as Aditya has said, that work experience and strength, and like only a single point is mentioned under strength. So a lot of these issues have been covered by Aditya, Tanushree, and Khushi. So I think that should be it for the CV.
Yeah, like usually people spend 5 to 6 months in making a proper resume. I think this guy likes, or this person spent just 5 minutes. Like, this is the only single sheet of paper that can decide your future. So if you want it to be this way, then
Also, like one more
To
small point
anyone.
I would like to address. Since, as Aditya already mentioned, there's only one point mentioned in strength, right? And you don't mention words like comfort. You don't mention like buzzwords that you have just heard, or that could be like true for most people's cases as a strength or as interest or anything, right? Try to avoid like these popular buzzwords for specifically in your resume. It kind of makes the interviewer lose interest in your resume. Yeah, it makes it seem like it's made from a machine rather than a person putting effort. So yeah, I think most of the points have already been covered. So,
Thank you to all the panelists for their valuable input in this CV building session and how to distinguish between a good CV and a bad CV. Now we are coming to an end of this informative session. We are now open for questions by the participants and they can ask through the chat box. Our mods will take up the questions, and here are some frequently asked questions which I would like to be answered by the panelists. The first question is, how should you conduct company research before attending an interview? If any one of the panelists can take. How should you conduct
okay.
company research before attending an interview?
Shall I go first?
Thank you.
Okay. So I think this was partially already answered by Tanushree before when you asked. But since this has been brought up, I'd like to say a few points. So, see, when you're researching for a company, right, what they expect of you is that you know the basic points, okay? Where was this, when was this company founded? Who is the current CEO? Who are the current leaders? And you can get all of that information on the internet, right? And what is the most, if that's a, let's say, product based company, what product do they sell? What is their most hyped about product? If it's a service based company, what services do they provide? um, you know, where are they located, etc., etc. You can find all of these informations on the internet. But something that I would like to point out is, while you're researching, right, I think Ankan, you said, you asked Tanushri, what are the few strategies that you can, if I'm not wrong, what are the few strategies you can ensure to ensure that you know about the company, right? So I feel, see, you can have strategies. Like there is a strategy which is often used by a lot of people when they answer these questions, or answer, you can say, some sort of situation based questions, right? It's called the STAR method: situation, task, action, and I think result, if I'm not wrong. So you have to first mention the situation that is given, reiterate it, mention what tasks you could take, then what action will you take, and the result of that action. So this is something that is usually followed in a lot of companies. But I would say, again, don't become too mechanical about it. Just be yourself and try to answer it in a legit format. They'll be satisfied. And like, a few typical companies have a few things that you should know about them. Like Amazon has, I think, 16 leadership principles or something that you must obviously see before an interview, right? Because they are very particular about it, and they usually ask these in the HR round. So apart from that, I don't think any such company has anything. Or yeah, you could have. You should know what is googliness if you're going for a Google interview. I think that's about it.
Yeah, just I would like to add something over here. Like before any company comes for placement, there is generally a pre-placement talk that takes place, wherein the companies, tech leaders, HRs, and all people give very vital information pertaining to that company, and most of the candidates do not listen to it properly, obviously. But I would suggest that if you were to give an interview to that company, if you were to give your answers on the lines of the ideals, aspirations, or objectives which that company wishes to sort of cover in the near future, if you give your answers in those lines, they'll subconsciously understand that you are already taking in the company culture and trying to you have actually understood what that company is trying to achieve in terms of what its objectives are. So you don't have to explicitly search for what that company does or research about that company on the internet. If you listen to that pre-placement talk and jot down some 10-15 most essential points and sort of formulate your answers in the interview on those lines, it would be a really good boost in your chances to getting selected. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, so to add to their points, I can continue with the question, right? You guys have another question? Okay. So just to mention a little bit, adding to that point, one more aspect of researching about every company has some mottos, right? So you will go to, if it's like an MNC, well-established company, they'll have it on their website, like whether they are diversity inclusive or something like that. They'll have a page about. So that is one of the important pages that you should read about once. So it's more like, even if they don't ask it, you can know whether the company is suited for your personality or not, or whether you are suited for that company. Research about the job profile you are going to. For example, if you're going to business for a business analyst role and you do not know what business analyst role is, so research about that business analyst role, like what all skills they do. So that is also a part of research before you apply for a company. As Shashwat said, that listen to the talk. Definitely, because job description as to what they are hiring for is mentioned in that as well. So these are all points that you need to research before applying for a job. So that is from my part.
Thank you so much, panelists. Now we have our next question. Is it possible to secure a placement even if our technical skills are not very strong?
Right. So, panelists, is it okay if I start with this question?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So depends on the type of, first of all, the first point is that depends on the type of placement that you want, right? So there is a lot of opportunities, even if you're technically strong, not strong, there's different kinds of opportunities, right? If you want to go for a core technical company, okay. So for that, your technical skills need to be strong. If you're going for a consultancy company, your technical skills need not be as strong as your, say, communication skills, right? So a lot of things depend on, a lot of things will determine the answer of this question. What kind of placements you want, first of all. If you want, like, a good technical company only, then, and not technical company, just I would say, a lot of companies which concentrate, which make their questions mostly about like technical skills, right? So yes, those companies are harder to get into without proper technical knowledge, and without you giving time into technical knowledge. Now, the thing is about interviews, even if you prepare for like 2 months, 3 months properly, at least for coding interviews, I can tell you, even if you prepare for 2 months, 3 months properly, you can have good enough technical skill that is required to get into, to at least pass the interview rounds, right? Again, that also is dependent on the person, but mostly that is what I have noticed from people around me and from my own experiences, right? But again, so if you want to go for a core company, on the other hand, like say mechanical core companies or something, I think that requires a bit more time for preparation, right? So it will depend upon the company and the line that you are choosing, and a lot of other factors. Consultancy companies, on the other hand, do not require that much, like, technical knowledge. If you're going for a different kind of role, like an analyst role, or uh, some other kind of roles, yeah. So for those, technical knowledge is again not important. So it depends on the type of company, the type of role that you're going for. So yeah, it's like very possible to get placements even with not so sound technical knowledge.
Just to clarify, like I wanted to add some points to Tanushree. So technical knowledge, it actually depends on the job description as to what technical knowledge. So for like a software developer, you will need a coding or CS fundamentals, right? For a core job, you will need that technical knowledge, and maybe if you're going for electrical core job, you will need electrical. So what happens during for placement itself, you will need some basic knowledge. Not like you have to be perfect at that, or you have to be very well in that. No, like the basic knowledge. For example, if you see, say for SD interview, what is required? You need basic DSA. So not like you have done 400 questions, then only you will get selected. Even if you have given 100 questions, and like you have done your research about various topics like binary search trees, hash maps, everything, graphs and all, you have done your basic questions, you know what they are, what they, you can still get selected into these companies. So do not need to be a very good competitive coder. Then you have like in core example, so they ask you very basic question as to, I can tell you for electrical questions like what is the basic principle of operating of motors or special motors. They won't go to advanced topics, they will go to a basic level. So technical knowledge is to have like a basic knowledge is required for any interviews, but you have to have be an expert to get in job is not necessary.
Thank you to the panelists who have answered the questions. Um, yes, um, where if you want to ask,
No, it's fine, Uncle. You can go.
um, okay. Um, we will move on to the third question. Um, what are some example questions to pose to the interviewer after the interview concludes?
Right. So I would like to go first. Some example questions you could pose is like one very generic question that you can ask is like how could I have given the interview better, or what are some of the mistakes that I've done during the interview. So this is generally done, like I would recommend you to do this after every interview, because it feels like the interviewer, it will give a last impression, will give a good last impression to the interviewer, that even if you have given the interview as good, if you think that interview is bad, the interviewer will feel that you are someone who likes to, improve upon his or her mistakes. And you're sort of the just remember that since the entire interview has been about you speaking more than the interviewer, so now you're putting the ball in the interviewer's court and asking him or her how you could have done better, and gaining some valuable insight from a person who has been in the industry since he or she is taking your interview. So it's a sort of a very it's a good method of making the interviewer feel obligated, that yes, you have taken my interview and I want to know about some insights that you have which I don't. So that's a very good question. Another good question that could be would be if you ask the interviewer about certain things about the company, like if I were to improve on this thing, or if I what this company does in this aspect, what exactly, like how you are going about doing it. Certainly, show some sort of curiosity in the company in which he or she, the person who's taking your interview, is. If you show some curiosity, if you show some inquisitiveness, it shows also that it gives off a good vibe to the interviewer, that the person is it's also willing to learn, and that person also wants to know more about the company. Sort of shows some dedication towards the company even before confirmation about the fact that you have been hired or not. So it sort of gives a good impression. So Aditya, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to add my perspective to this. So, as Shashwat mentioned, if you were to jot it down in a nutshell, right, it is as simple as asking smart questions. If you, you have to portray that, okay, you have done your due diligent research about the company and you know your stuff. So let's say at the end of the interview, everything went well, right? To uh, add a cherry on top of the cake, you can just ask a question saying that, okay, which team are you a part of? What does your usual day at work look like? What are some of the things that Dash company does to stay diverse, inclusive? You can ask all these generic questions. You can also ask a person specific question. How has your experience, your journey been like in the company, etc., etc. And what is most important is asking a question. That is important. A lot of people miss out on this. They think, okay, interview acha nahi gaya. I don't think I'll get selected. Well, if the interviewer is asking you, do you have any questions for me? Then that means that you still have some chance. So you can try and utilize that to the most extent.
Do the panelists have anything else to add? Is the panelists going to add anything else, or we move on to the last question?
I think we can move on. Yeah.
So here we have our last question. Should the same CV be utilized for all companies?
Okay, so this is. Can I go first? It's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So this is something that a lot of people ask. Usually, see, uh, CVs are usually prepared role-wise, not company-wise, right? So, uh, let's say you're applying for a role of. I'll give an example from a software perspective, since I feel most of you are aiming for the software background. It will set a good example. So let's say you're going for a role of a software engineer, software development engineer, right? So what you do is, okay, you see the company description, you see the job description, and then accordingly you add and highlight the important points. Now, let's say the role changes to SRE, so site reliability engineer. So that is slightly different from that of a software development engineer, and that focuses on DevOps more. So you have to add skills that pertain to the DevOps industry. Now, what changes from a company perspective, if I were to answer? From a company perspective, if there is a change in the job description, if there is something different in the description, some other skills that they are looking for, then you would tend to prioritize those skills over something else if you have on your resume. Secondly, if a company, you feel that, okay, they value certain cultural instincts, or they value something such as diversity, or they value some aspects more, right? Then you can try and add those bullet points. Like Tanushi mentioned before, there are ATS resume checkers, right? So uh, you can check that out and find out what usually is more favorable. Some impact words, like let's say you can mention I worked on this project. Instead of that, if you mention I collaborated on this project, it's a better term, so to say. So yeah, that's about it from my side.
Do the panelists want to add anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to add
Thank you so
that.
much.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Sure, sure. Go ahead.
No, it's fine, Shivan. You can continue. I was just saying that Aditya has more or less covered every point there is to be. But I feel that the takeaway would be that CV is basically, it depends on, it's more skill specific and what kind of industry you're trying to go in rather than company specific, because more or less all companies look for the same set of qualities in an individual, more or less. So I think one CV, if you make it well, sort of to tick all the boxes in the CV making department, I think you're good to go for almost all companies for that specific role. Yeah.
Thank you so much to all the panelists for resolving all our doubts. Please join me in extending a heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed panelists for generously sharing their time, expertise, and experiences with us today. Let's embrace this opportunity to learn, grow, and create lasting connections that will propel us towards a successful future.
And now we have come to the end of our informative session. The students who are registered in the PI round will have their time slots allotted to them. We'll stay in touch. We wish to see all the panelists and participants all the best in the future endeavors. We'll see you in our next session. Thank you.